The Giants have been a team of absolute extremes as of late. They can't hit, but their pitching has been elite, and it's keeping them afloat.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit the subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show to get these episodes pushed to your devices Monday through Friday. And coming up on today's show, the Giants, a team of extremes. We'll get into the historic nature of their offensive slump, but also the historic nature of their great pitching and how it's all balanced out and the results are kind of predictable. Even like it's an amazing thing to be in the middle, but only in the middle because you're extreme on two opposite ends. So we'll break that all down and the specifics of this series win in Miami. That's the thing. The Giants did end up having what you would call a okay road trip, considering they got swept by the Tigers. I think that going into Detroit, you kind of expect to lose that series. The Tigers have the best record in baseball, and the Giants really could have won any of those games, but in particular, they led, 3-0 in the finale. So easily this could have ended up being a 5-4 road trip, even if they didn't score any additional runs, because they had a 3-0 lead. They didn't need to score more. They just needed to not allow the 4 spot they allowed in that one inning. So yeah, getting into the specifics though, after they go 4-5 on this trip, dating back to a little bit before the road trip, they played the A's and the Royals at home. Their first game against the A's, by the way, they swept the A's. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Royals. Their first game against the A's, that was the game in which Wilmer Flores homered 3 times, including a grand slam. They scored 9 runs. So since then, they've played 14 games, and they are averaging, well, let me just say, they've scored 30 runs in those 14 games, which is just, it's the lowest in the major leagues. The next closest team has scored 37, and then the next closest team after that has 45. So you go up 2 teams, and that's 33. No, wait, 15, 30, 45. How am I? That's 50% more runs, 50% more runs than you. And that's the next closest team, 2 teams away, sorry. So it's just crazy. I mean, so that averages out to 2.143. So we'll round that to 2.1 runs per game for 14 games. So if you just told me that, like after that A's game, the next 14 games, the Giants are going to average 2.1 runs a game, I would say, they're in deep trouble. Like, okay, that's 14 games. Like maybe you go 4-10 or something in those games would be my guess. Maybe 3-11. That would be the fear. But they've gone 7-7. So we'll get into how. It's the fact that they've allowed just 33 runs and scored 30. So the hitting, as bad as it's been, or the pitching as good as it's been, the hitting has been even worse. But shockingly, since that date, they actually are not the worst offensive team. There's 3 teams that have a worse weighted runs created plus. However, we're talking about runs scored. They are the worst in that category. But one of those teams that's been worse by weighted runs created plus is the Padres, who are coming into town. And I think the perception out there is that the Padres are this dangerous offensive juggernaut type team, but they've really been struggling with the bats themselves, even worse than the Giants. Like in this stretch, the Giants have a 212 average. Padres are at 205. Giants have a 294 on base. Padres 265. Giants have a 310 slugging. Padres 343. So Giants beat them out in the on base department, but the Padres beat them out by a similar margin in the slugging department. So add it all up, and both of these teams have been bottom of the barrel offensively. So have the Tigers, by the way, who continue to play extremely well thanks to their good pitching. So part of this is it must be that like these three teams below the Giants in weighted runs created plus all have at least 15 more runs scored than them in this span. And so part of this is like got to be just bad luck, just not getting that big hit, which they were getting so often early on. So if we look at the individual players during this 14-game span, they have a couple of players who've done well. Matt Chapman, Heliot Ramos. Heliot Ramos in this 14-game stretch hitting 315, 362 on base, 519 slugging. Chapman hitting 273, 385 on base, 455 slugging. Both of those figures more than 40% better than league average by measure of weighted runs created plus. Patrick Bailey has been better, but besides that, even Lamont Wade Jr. has an above average offensive line during this 14-game stretch, believe it or not, with a 344 on base. Average is nothing great. Slugging is okay. 344 on base is way above average. So quietly, he's had a decent stretch here. He's played in 10 games during that span. But Mike Yastrzemski and Willie Adames have been their worst performers in this 14-game stretch. And so it continues to be a big struggle for Adames, and quietly Mike Yastrzemski had the worst of any one stretch. Like this is the worst stretch of any Giants player. So they moved him out of the leadoff spot and put in Heliot Ramos, and he might be there to stay. I mean, this guy is just proving to be kind of a stud, whether it's a righty or a lefty. Like he is continuing to prove himself every day and cementing that kind of fact that he is beyond just a major league player, but a good major league player and a good major league hitter. I'm assuming at this point, and I'm going to look really quick, that his hitting has been above average against righties. And sure enough, he's been 41% above average when facing a righty, hitting 300 on the nose with a 363 on base and 494 slugging. So that is a great development to see for Ramos, hitting righties, and he's hit lefties. So Heliot Ramos being 25 years old almost all season long, it's a great thing. But yeah, overall, just the runs not there. If we look at their performance in certain situations, I think that that's going to reveal what we're looking for, which is that they're not coming through in high leverage situations like they did so often early in the season. So their weighted runs created plus in high leverage situations over this last however many games, 14, is 81. So they've been about 20% below average in those situations. And if we look at, runners in scoring position, which is they're second to last. And San Diego is last in weighted runs created plus. Giants have a 37 weighted runs created plus with runners in scoring position, striking out 36% of the time during this 14-game span. So, and again, the Padres have a worse weighted runs created plus. So they come in, don't be fooled, like that they come in with their own exact same kind of feelings about their offense right now. So even though you've got Tatis and Machado, et cetera, like they still come in with that. So something to keep in mind with Logan Webb on the mound tonight. So we will continue this conversation and look at how, despite being the worst run scoring team over the span, by kind of a huge margin. If you start to look at some of the other teams just 2 spots above them, they've been able to play .500 baseball thanks to their pitching. We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by wonderful pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? I think we all kind of are. Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I am in love with wonderful pistachios. I have a whole shelf in my pantry dedicated to all these different great flavors of wonderful pistachios. I think chili roasted and honey, I forget the names of them, but just check them out for yourself. There's a bunch of honey barbecue, just smoky barbecue. They're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. So check them out for yourself. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to check out all the flavors and more. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the fact that the Giants have somehow managed to play decent baseball overall when you look at their record and run differential, despite being historically anemic offensively for a somewhat extended period of time. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we'll be breaking down pivotal game 1 of, I used the right word in the wrong spot. We will be breaking down game 1 of this pivotal 4-game series against the San Diego Padres, this is going to be followed by a 3-game series against the Braves. So these are 2 teams that are very relevant in the Giants wild card. I don't want to just put them in the wild card category, but the Dodgers will probably run away with the division at some point. But yeah, I mean, the Padres and the Giants are right neck and neck right now, and they're both struggling offensively, so something's got to give maybe, or it's just going to be very low scoring. We'll be breaking it down tomorrow. And anyway, so one other note on the offense, and my mom pointed this out, listener of the show, big, huge Giants fan. My mom pointed out that Shayna Rubin of the San Francisco Chronicle pointed out that it's been 45 years since the Giants have scored 4 or fewer runs in 14 straight games. So that's something I didn't mention, is that they've scored only 30 total runs, yes, but they've also not scored 5 or more in 14 straight games, and it's been a very long time. They've never... that's wrong. I was going to say I've never done it in San Francisco. I was thinking 1945. No, 45 years. That's quite a long time. In my lifetime, this has never happened. And in a lot of people listening's lifetime, this has never happened. And even if it was in your lifetime, that was quite a while ago that this has happened. So it is a historically bad stretch offensively. Yet they're 7-7 in this period, thanks to their pitching, which we're going to get into on a micro level as well as a macro level. So on a macro level, also courtesy of Shayna Rubin, and this was talking about the month of May, before we had Hayden Birdsong go out there on June 1st, yesterday, and pitch a gem. We'll get into that, but she says in the Chronicle, quote, "The staff's 2.64 May ERA is San Francisco's lowest for a single month since September and October 2010, whose staff had a 1.91 ERA en route to a World Series title. The last time the Giants had such a low ERA with a losing record was when the 1985 team put together a 2.53 ERA with a 7-12 record as a team." So the Giants went, did she even mention what their record was? I don't even see it. I had it previously, and then I think I deleted it. 13-14. They went 13-14 in the month of May, and then they win on June 1st. So we'll just throw that in there. And, well, then it wouldn't be a losing record. But still, 14-14 in May plus one game in June. So they're playing 500 baseball by having extremely productive and efficient and effective pitching and extremely struggling offense. It's kind of crazy, but it does make sense that at the end of the day, that equates out to a 500 record over that span. And one other thing I want to point out before we get into the specifics of the pitchers and what went down there is that the Giants have a plus 42 run differential, and their record is 33-26, but that plus 42 run differential has an expected win-loss record of 34-25. And the other thing that I want to just say about that is that only the first place teams in the National League, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Mets, have better run differentials in the National League. The Giants have the fourth best run differential, runs scored minus runs allowed. Think of the season as one giant game, and they're up by 42. That's fourth best in the National League. So even it doesn't matter. Like if you can't hit, but you really, really, really pitch, like you can still win games. And that's kind of what they're showing us. Even like as bad and frustrating as it seems, they've still been able to play solid baseball. So they do come in, though, tied for the final wild card spot with the Cardinals. They're one back of the Padres for the second wild card spot and three back of the Phillies for the first wild card spot. But the Giants have a significantly better run differential than both the Padres, who are at plus 16, and the Phillies at plus 22. Again, the Giants at plus 42. So that you would think would bode well. Padres playing under 500 baseball on the road. They're 11-18 against teams that are 500 or better. And then the Braves come into town. They're 10-20 on the road and 12-19 against 500 or better teams. So this, like, on paper looks like a tough homestand, but you have there's a possibility that you could take advantage of a couple of teams that, if you kind of dig into the numbers, you have an advantage over. And the Giants are home, and they're 17-9 at home. Giants are 16-15 against teams 500 or better. So they trump the Padres and Braves in all of those kind of meaningful categories there. And so anyway, we'll get into the pitching now. So a lot of it has been the young pitching. I mean, you look at Hayden Birdsong and what he was able to do. I mean, he just dealt on Sunday, ran into a little trouble in the sixth, but before that was just absolutely cruising and kind of dominating the Marlins, and his stuff was just explosive and in the zone. So the Giants over this 14-game stretch have a 1.92 ERA, which is the best in Major League Baseball. 1.92. So they've allowed some unearned runs because they've allowed 2.357 runs per game over the last 14, which rounds to 2.4. So they're allowing 2.4, scoring 2.1. But anyway, their ERA is first. Let me see if their runs allowed is something I can easily grab. They're second at 33 runs allowed. The Rays have played one more game and allowed one fewer run. So the Rays are on a heater right now from a pitching standpoint themselves. But anyway, getting to the individuals, I mean, Robbie Ray threw an absolute gem and is like looking like a Cy Young candidate right now, along with Logan Webb. Lowered his ERA to 2.43. Expected ERA is 2.81. Fielding independent pitching is 3.06. And they lost 1-0 with him on the mound. Have to point out that there were two unbelievable defensive plays by the Marlins that completely changed the outcome of the game. Like, it's almost like they got the big hit twice, but the Marlins just took it away. So you kind of like, yeah, it's obviously super frustrating. They had the bases loaded and 1 out in the first inning, the Giants did. Willie Adames struck out in that situation, and then Mike Yastrzemski did too. But that's on Adames to just put the ball in play, hit a fly ball, and you can score a run. And like, they literally lost 1-0. So that was kind of the game there. In addition to those big hits, or big hits that were caught, with Tyler Fitzgerald having a home run robbed. It would have been a 2-run go-ahead homer. And then Jung-Hoo Lee having, this play was even more amazing, with, I think it was Heliot Ramos on first. He hit a blast into deep right center field, and it was just caught as the center fielder jumped and smashed into the wall at like full speed. Crazy play. It would have tied the game at least. It could have kicked away and possibly been an inside the park homer. But like I said, it feels like they got the big hit twice in that game, and the Marlins just took it away. So, but also you got to do better. Like, 1 run, you just have to be able to score a run. Otherwise you're not gonna win. And a little more pressure obviously is wanted and needed. So Robbie Ray was spectacular. Hayden Birdsong in this stretch of 14 games has made 3 starts, and in those 3 starts, he has a 2.45 ERA. His strikeout rate is 25%. His walk rate is just 3.3%, which is exceptional. So, I'm just kind of blown away by how good that is. And Landen Roupp has a 0.56 ERA in 3 starts during this stretch. Logan Webb has been their worst pitcher by ERA during this stretch. Kyle Harrison made 2 starts, and his ERA is 2 in those 2 starts in 9 innings, 2 runs in 9 innings. So we will get into more details and talk about big picture for this Giants team and preview their big game tonight against San Diego in just a minute. And before we do, all right, as promised, we're going to get into more about the Giants' historically good pitching run. I mean, I guess I didn't necessarily give evidence that it's historic. I guess the way it was historic is that it was their lowest in a month since their ERA was their lowest in a month since 2010. So yeah, it is historic. But we talked about the starters. We'll get into the relievers as well. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we'll be breaking down game 1 of this huge series against the Padres, who come in slumping offensively. They did win yesterday. Giants will be facing, how do you say, what's his first name? Kolek. I think he's having a pretty darn good year. Stephen Kolek, Kolek, and his ERA has gotten up to 4.11, but the underlying numbers are better than that. A lot of ground balls. Giants don't hit a lot of ground balls, so we'll see if he's able to negate that. I'm trying to see. He's not their knuckleballer, is he? No, he's not. He is not. But yeah, he's been okay. And he's made 5 starts in the majors, and they've all come this year with the Padres. So there's that. Anyway, we'll be breaking that one down. The pitching, getting back to them, like Robbie Ray, phenomenal. Hayden Birdsong and Kyle Harrison, since moving to the rotation, I mean, that's 5 starts out of them. Exactly 23 2/3 innings with how many earned runs? 4 for Birdsong and 2 for Harrison. So 6 runs in 23 2/3 innings with a ton of strikeouts, 24 strikeouts. I guess it's not that crazy, but how many walks? Just 5. So yeah, I mean, they've both done an amazing job. And the one guy, besides actually Verlander, made 1 start in this 14-game period, and I think that was his last before going on the injured list when his velo was way down. But Logan Webb has a 5.40 ERA thanks to a 4.84 batting average on balls in play. So a little bit of bad luck, it seems, with Webb making 2 starts, 10 innings, and about half of the balls hit into play have been hits against him. So that's crazy. Not a ton of ground balls for Webb during this stretch, but the underlying numbers, fielding independent pitching, strikeout rate, it's just been really good. So I would expect Webb to rebound as one would. He is a top tier starter. No surprises there for me to mention that. So all of them doing well. And in particular, I mean, just the significance, as I said, of Kyle Harrison and, like when he was going to get the shot, he was in the minors not long ago, right? And then he was in the bullpen, and then he was given a shot to make starts, and he showed very well for himself. And he averaged over 95 in the start, which I think was his best ever as a major leaguer with the fastball. So, I mean, right now, all of these guys look better than Justin Verlander. And so it's going to be a very interesting question how they handled this with Webb and Ray and Roupp and Birdsong and Harrison. That's like a full rotation, and they've been doing amazing, and you kind of don't want to mess with it. But we'll see what happens if and when Verlander is ready to come back. But the bullpen, it's been more of the same. Only Jordan Hicks, really, and Kyle Harrison, who had a 6.75, it's 1 1/3 innings of a sample, is one game. But the fielding independent pitching was 0.08, but the ERA was 6.75. It's 1 1/3 innings, too small of a sample. But Randy Rodriguez, Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, Tristan Beck, Spencer Bivens, Camilo Doval, and Eric Miller, the highest ERA in the group, 3.0 of those people I just mentioned, and the next highest, 2.35. And so as a unit, that's a 1.68 ERA over that span. So we mentioned that the pitching overall has a 1.92 ERA. Their starters have a 2.08, which is tied for first, or maybe just a little bit better than first, with Tampa Bay, 2.08. And their relievers in this stretch are second. The Cubs have a 1.01 ERA in that span. The Giants at 1.68. So you've got a bullpen that, even with a little bit of a dicey performance yesterday, has put together a 1.68 ERA over this span, and a starting staff that has a 2.08 ERA over the span. It's just been incredible pitching, which I feel like we haven't seen this in a while. And I don't want to say this is like Buster Posey's grand design, because if you look at the entire staff right now with Justin Verlander injured, like I would say Verlander's the worst out of all of these pitchers from what I've seen this year. These are all players who were drafted and developed or acquired, I guess, besides Logan Webb, but he debuted under the previous regime, but he was drafted way back in 2014. So that's 2 regimes ago. But Roupp, Harrison, Birdsong, all drafted and developed by the by the Farhan Zaidi regime. And Robbie Ray, I continue to say, like, you got to give Farhan Zaidi some credit for that trade. I know that he signed Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani to those regrettable deals, but to get Robbie Ray out of it and to have the foresight that Robbie Ray would be able to get back to his best ways, it's key. I mean, you got a Cy Young looking candidate out of a guy, or for a couple of guys who were just atrocious, and it was like a salary dump or like a swap of quote unquote bad contracts. But Robbie Ray's contract certainly not looking so bad right now. He opted in to the final 2 years and $50 million of his contract. There was an opt out, and he chose not to take it. So he signed for $25 million this year, $25 million next year. Meanwhile, Anthony DeSclafani has not pitched since he pitched in a Giants uniform. in the major leagues, and Mitch Haniger was released by the Mariners prior to this season, and they're still paying him for this season. So you got to give him credit, give credit where credit is due. But what I was saying was we haven't seen this, like I said, like Shayna Rubin said, in a long time. Like, it's their best ERA in a month since the first championship run. And I remember that they had a rough August, that 2010, and then in September and whatever, how like 1 or 2 days in October, they were just lights out, and they carried that right into the postseason from a pitching standpoint. And right now it's just so steady. Like, I was just thinking about how much stability and lack of changes and optioning guys has occurred. And so that is a credit to Posey and letting these guys pitch. You know, they're letting them, the starters, start, and like they're not opening for Hayden Birdsong or whatever, or whatever. They're not getting cute. They're just like, here you go, and try to go as deep as you can. And Bob Melvin, who, by the way, has made some questionable bullpen decisions to me. I didn't see anything, but why was Randy Rodriguez not used yesterday when he had thrown 5 pitches in the previous 3 games combined, and things got dicey, and it was like Jordan Hicks out there in a high leverage situation? Randy Rodriguez must not have been available is my only guess. But and then Spencer Bivens was used in like the 8th inning of a close game, like a 1-run game, which I also was shocked to see. So some questionable bullpen decisions for sure to me, but at the same time, just the way that they've let their starters start and they just have like a group of 5, the proof is in the pudding. Like, it's working. A lot of teams get cute, including the Giants of the previous regime. They got cute all the time. And right now they're not getting cute, and the results have been great. And so that deserves a nod for sure. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Logan Webb on the mound. Hopefully the Giants, 4-game series. Hopefully they can start it off on a good note after their win yesterday. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.